Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to 5 Minutes of Torah with the Beth Israel Rabbi. As you can see, my family and I are still here at Camp Solomon Schecter, our second week here, and the family is absolutely loving it. And the kids who've come from Vancouver love it here as well. Camp Solomon Schecter is a fantastic camp, a wonderful place to be. This coming Shabbat, we read Parshat Pinchas. And when we read this Torah portion, I'm always reminded of my own family. My father, my late father, who was a Holocaust survivor, survived the Holocaust with only one other family member, immediate family member, his aunt, his mother's sister, who escaped from Poland and went to Siberia. And then after the Shoah made Aliyah, moved to Israel with her two daughters. One eventually moved to Brooklyn, marrying a man there, and the other married a man in Haifa and stayed in Haifa in Israel. That husband in Israel was named Pinchas. He was a great man. He was a very strong individual. He also was a Holocaust survivor. And like Pinchas in this week's Parsha, he had strong opinions as well, and also a very kind and caring man. About 20 years ago, Pinchas had just finished Shachrit, morning services, and was waiting outside the synagogue at the bus stop when a woman, not on purpose but by accident, put her car into reverse instead of forward and was about to hit two young children. Pinchas pushed those two children out of the way, put himself in harm's way, was hit by the car, and was killed immediately. He gave of himself. He gave the ultimate sacrifice in order to save two other young human beings. Pinchas, in this week's Parsha, in this week's Torah portion, we are told is given a Brit Shalom, is given a covenant of peace. And Rashi says that he is given a covenant of peace because of a quid pro quo, because that is what he is given for what he has done for others, for the sake of the Jewish people. Pinchas in my family gave of himself. Pinchas in this Parsha gives of himself. And both, I believe, are an example for how we as individuals should lead our lives. And I wish that both were examples for how our leaders should be. Giving them themselves and not caring as much about themselves as others. Unfortunately, this past week, we saw an example of the exact opposite. Unfortunately, this past week, the Rabbanut, which is the organization of rabbis, the establishment of rabbis, a government agency in Israel that has hegemony, that has complete authority, all of the power, and by the way, the money that comes with that, decided to publish a blacklist, a list of rabbis whose conversions they do not accept outside of Israel. This is a list of Orthodox, Reform, and Conservative rabbis. One of the people who were named, who is targeted on that list, was our very own Rabbi Emeritus, Rabbi Solomon. Rabbi Solomon, who retired 20 years ago and made Aliyah with his wife Phyllis, moved to Israel, to Jerusalem, live in Jerusalem still to this very day. The very fact that the Rabbanut published the paper at all demonstrates that they care more about themselves than anyone else. And by putting Rabbi Solomon's name on this list, by extension, they have not only targeted Rabbi Solomon, but Congregation Beth Israel. Rabbi Solomon is not only one of the kindest, warmest, and most learned rabbis I know, but human beings as well. The fact that the Rabbanut targeted Rabbi Solomon, who has all of these incredible qualities, demonstrates that they don't care about the individual whom they targeted. And the fact that Rabbi Solomon retired 20 years ago also demonstrates the fact that the Rabbanut is out of touch with the rest of the Jewish world. When one is insular and only looking inside and not outside, they can't know what is happening outside, what is happening beyond them. The fact that they don't even know that Rabbi Solomon retired 20 years ago demonstrates their lack of knowledge of the rest, or even their concern of the rest of the Jewish world. It is my prayer that the Rabbanut truly becomes the religious leadership that we all need, becomes the religious leadership that the Jewish world needs, caring more about the rest of the world, the rest of Am Yisrael, the Jewish people, than themselves. I also want to just state that the Rabbanut's long-term decision to not accept conversions that are done outside of Israel by Reform and Conservative and many Orthodox rabbis does not reflect on the fact that the Israeli government does accept our conversions for the sake of Aliyah, for the sake of moving to Israel. And that is the absolute most important fact. Shabbat Shalom.